Welcome to the Takeoff Podcast, the go-to construction podcast for construction professionals seeking inspiration, education, or motivation for the next steps in their career. Each Monday, you'll be joined by me, Mick Donaghy, Managing Director of Gedden Executive Recruitment and a respected name from the industry. A construction leader, a business owner, or someone in the thick of the action. The whole premise of this podcast is for you to get something from it. An idea, a connection, a mentor, whatever it is, I hope you get it. And I hope you enjoy the show. Without further ado, let's get into it. We are joined by Alex Johnson and Tom Moore of Building Guild. Really enjoyed this conversation with both the guys. It was the first episode that I've done where I've interviewed two people at once. So it was quite interesting and it was a bit of a different dynamic, and hopefully you guys, the listeners, quite enjoyed it. But we talked about everything from Alex essentially establishing Building Guild and taking it from a business, working on very small projects. They're working with some of the biggest blue chip clients in all of Australia. We talk about everything from a career in construction, the founding and setup of Building Guild, and different things from work-life balance to mental health and the future of construction. So really enjoyed this episode. It gave a really different dynamic because Alex is obviously the managing director and the founder of the business, but also Tom is the general manager. So he give that sort of perspective of developing high performance teams, what it's like sort of working in the business as well as on the business. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. If any of the listeners out there want to connect with Alex or Tom a little more, hook up on LinkedIn and connect with them. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the episode. This is Measured, and this is the episode with Alex Johnson and Tom Moore. I guess the first question I always ask within the podcast is how do you measure success? So either Tom or Alex, feel free to pick that one up.
Yeah, no problem. I think the sort of three pillars to success in our mind, and that is sort of obviously happy client, a happy architect, and then of course the objective of having a business is to make a bit of money. So those three things are kind of the three pillars of success in our sort of opinion.
Has that changed over years, or has that been the same since you've relatively sort of started within construction?
Well, no, I think that's the three pillars are quite static in that respect. But what's changed in our view on construction is actually our newer objective, I suppose, is to create really astute construction professionals and to do some really great training, because what we're seeing is because of, certainly because of COVID and the lack of foreign employees coming into the market, and also the construction booms in residential and commercial in the latter years, that we're seeing a really tight market in terms of employees, and therefore they're getting paid a lot and don't have a lot of experience necessarily. So we're trying to really, one of our legacies is to try to make really good construction professionals and train them well for the ongoing good of the industry.
Yeah, I think that's super important, and you've actually hit the nail on the head there as well with regards to right now. I think we're facing one of the biggest employee shortages and resource shortages in the last maybe decade. I'm seeing it across the board. Every industry is just screaming out for good people, and Tom, I was looking at your background. Did you originally start in the UK, your career?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So I grew up in Lincolnshire. I don't know if you know it, but it's very rural farming, very blue collar. And since as soon as I was a teenager, really, I've always worked on construction sites.
Yeah.
Labouring for bricklayers, doing whatever was going, but I've always loved it.
And that's exactly it. With regards to people like yourself haven't been able to get into Australia or New Zealand for the last 12 months, and hopefully it doesn't continue to go this way. Hopefully this is the last year we have it. So upskilling your employees is so important. I kind of just want to take it back then. So obviously you mentioned you're originally from the UK, Tom, but how did you both get started within the construction industry? Who wants to take that one up?
Sure. Well, yeah. So you were talking before about when you were at school in the UK, and it was very much, I think, two divides. I remember quite distinctly when you're 11 years old in England, you take an exam and it determines which school you go to.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if you fail that exam at 11 years old, in my town was the Glebe School, and all my friends who went there, they have builders go in and they all do an apprenticeship, and for the half that pass, it's all about university. So from a very young age, there was a real divide where I was from. I passed the test. I'm one of the few people from my school who actually ended up in construction. But as I say, I've always been drawn to the industry.
Yeah, and
awesome job.
Well, and what about you, Alex?
Well, I think from school holidays and uni holidays, and even during uni, I was working as a labourer on sites just to kind of get a bit of income, and while I was sort of studying. And then after my first degree, which was actually in education, I then decided to get into construction. I did another second degree in construction, and got into the white collar side of things at that point in time. But I didn't really understand when I was doing labouring in the early days what actually white collar construction and what construction really meant.
Yeah.
In terms of the contracts and negotiations and the actual build, I thought it was all just, blue collar guys actually putting the thing together. So yeah, that was a big awakening for me, and it really excited me at the time, and that's how I kind of got into it.
Can either of you remember like your first sort of memory within construction? Like I remember going out to building sites with my old man, and scraping paper and wallpaper off the walls, thinking that I wanted to be a builder when I was older. Can any of you remember what your first sort of memory was?
I can. I have quite fond memories. I guess I would have been around 14 or 15, and to be around big machinery was probably not permitted at the time, but it was fun. And I remember laying hot asphalt, and it was freezing cold in England.
Yeah,
the heat from the asphalt was a very welcome addition to the day. But I remember going home and telling my mum, I tried the steamroller today, and I was doing the excavator. So yeah, it was a lot of fun for me.
I think mine was a bit earlier and probably a little bit more not really in the industry. My best mate at primary school actually had there was a big construction of a residential house next door to him that went on for about 2 years, and we used to crawl between the fences, which is probably not appropriate, and just cruise around the sites and check it all out. And so that was probably my introduction at the age of about 7 or 8. Just sort of cruising around and checking them all out as a tiny little tot.
Yeah, I think like that's the thing about construction. When you're a kid, it's it seems so cool. You're given like Lego when you're young, and you're building stuff out of Lego, and it's such a and then you see like people in your family or friends doing that. I think it's a cool thing, especially when you're so young.
I must say that I'm a carpenter by trade, and I'm not on the tools anymore. But I still, I've got an old decrepit house, which on the weekends I'm doing work to, and I still get the same joy and buzz getting the tools out.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said as well for craftsmanship, and in terms of like high-end joinery and carpentry. Like when you go into some of these, looking at on your website and looking at some of the fit outs that you've been involved with, it gives you an experience, such high-end craft like that. So I wish I had a trade. If I could go back, I probably would have went back and done joinery. What was the main motivation then, to get into sort of a professional career within construction?
My actual motivation was I was living in London actually, and teaching, doing supply teaching, and I sort of stopped doing that, and I was trying to create some other business at the time, and I kept procrastinating.
Mm-hmm.
And procrastinating when I was living in a house in London, and I kept fixing things. I had a hammer in my hand, and I was fixing the back fence, and I was fixing this and fixing that. And I kind of stopped at one point and had this realization, and I had the hammer in my hand and went, well, if I'm doing this to procrastinate, why don't I just do it as a job?
Yeah.
That's kind of where the actual inspiration came from, or the realization came from. And then I rang back to Australia and asked about how to get into construction, and there was 2 parts. It was either the apprenticeship or the white collar side of things, and through uni. And I think I was about 26 at the time. So I chose to do the university and the white collar side of things, you know. So that's kind of where it all came from for me.
Well, I think, for me, I sort of studied and did my A-levels. So I sort of missed that path to go and do an apprenticeship when my friends had. So I'd made the decision to go to university, and I was always, I studied music in the end, but I picked a degree that had quite a strong technical aspect. So it was a lot about acoustics and the physics of sound.
Yeah,
and
cool.
From quite a young age, I sort of had a dream and aspiration to design and build music studios. That was my way of kind of forging a university degree and back into the path that I wanted to take.
Tying the two together.
Yeah. So I'm very happy that I'm doing what I'm doing, but I always, in the back of my mind, wanted to end up in construction.
That's really interesting, actually, because I always find that people sort of stumble into construction. You know, it's kind of something that either was always going to happen or, you know, just sort of naturally happens, you know, because going back to the school thing, you know, when I was doing A-levels, there was never any sort of person who came in to say, this is what a career in construction can do. And you think of like where it can bring you, you know, obviously you've moved from the UK to Sydney, you know, and working on amazing projects. And I think there's just so much potential just to really tell these stories and for people to listen and pick them up and say, you know what, that's what I want to do. So that's awesome. So how did you guys come about sort of working together then?
Tom's wife is one of my best friends. She was actually my best man at my wedding.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's awesome.
And so Tom was working in Australia as a foreman on a high-end residential company, and we were quite busy at the time. And I think he finished up there or was about to finish up. And I asked Tom's wife, my mate, if Tom could come and work for me. And she was pretty resistant at the time, thinking that it would just end in tears.
Yeah.
So she gave us about a 3 or 4 week period to work together, and that was about 8 or 9 years ago. So
that's wicked. So she gave you a probation period then?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So how did Building Guild come about then?
Well, I've been working for fit out companies for, you know, upwards of 15 to 18 years. I'd worked for a great company for probably 10 years, worked for a not so great company for a couple of years, and sort of realised I'd learned more in the 2 years in a way than I did in the 10 years, because I learned what not to do and how to. They didn't treat subbies well, they didn't treat clients well. It was all about the dollar, not the craft. And so that was about the GFC actually. And so I sort of at the time was considering whether to start and the business, and it was all very sketchy time. You know, we're talking about 2007, 2008 when GFC hit. So I actually went back to the original company and spent another 3 years there before actually starting Building Guild. And then when it actually happened, I kind of decided that it was just time. I think they asked me to go down to Melbourne to start their Melbourne branch.
Yeah.
The company I was with, and I just decided to stay in Sydney and start my own thing instead.
Yeah, awesome. So it takes a lot of guts and risk, you know, to start your own business. You know, I guess when people get to that senior level within construction, you know, it's you're can be quite comfortable. You know what you're doing. You know your clients. You know you've got pipeline built up and that sort of thing. So, in terms of, did you have a vision that of what you wanted to bring to the table, Alex?
What I got frustrated with was I was getting to the point with doing, you know, really big projects, you know, sort of $20-30 million fit out projects, and you kind of get taken away from your client base. You know, you're not talking to your client. You're talking to a client PM, and then they're going and talking to the board. And, you know, it takes you 6 weeks to get an answer back on something that's, you know, a simple suggestion type thing. So I was getting a bit frustrated by that, and I wanted to get back closer to my clients, so to speak. Yeah, so that was kind of the one of the reasons for me to step away from what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's.
Yeah, well, I set up this business in August 2019. So that was pretty much 6 months before COVID. It's been, you know, certainly a challenge, you know, winning new business, winning clients. And that's part of the reason I want to do the podcast, is to, you know, showcase people that are out there. But was it difficult, setting up the brand and winning new business from the start off?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think that the main thing was from going from being quite reasonably senior in this company and having some great clients and great architects, the sort of world-renowned architects and international clients, stepping away to your own business. You think you've got that relationship with them, but it's actually the company you work for that's got the relationship, not me personally.
Yeah.
And then when you're going to start your own business with nucleus of systems and the like, and portfolio and all that sort of stuff, you really go back to starting from scratch again.
Mm-hmm.
And you go and we were starting with 10 grand jobs, 20 grand jobs, 30 grand jobs, and I was going from 25 million, $30 million jobs to 20 grand job.
Yeah.
Whilst the equation's the same in terms of the amount of work you put in and the trade lettings you have to do, it's just got more zeros on the end. Mm-hmm. So there's still amount of work you got to put in is the same. But yeah, that was the big shock for me. I thought that I was going to step out with the support of these clients and things, and really that wasn't there.
Yeah,
and that was probably the biggest awakening. I was very fortunate in the first job that I actually did was a $1 million contract in the QVB in Victoria building in Sydney, which was a great way to start a business, and then you go from that to, I think in the first year, that was $1 million. The first year we turned over about 1.2. So, 200 grand in the rest of the year with other jobs, So that was a very fortunate way of doing it. But yeah, it was a real leap of faith, without a doubt. Yeah. And then it's about building up, like you say, the brand awareness, and then a portfolio that people can actually trust. So yeah.
How did you pick the name? There's always a story when it comes to a name.
Yeah. So interesting. We've been to a couple of meetings and they've said, we're expecting you to ride on horseback with swords.
To be honest, that's kind of what I was expecting as well.
So I originally called it Alex Johnson Constructions, and then I thought, I don't really want my branded all over the town if it gets big enough. So I was talking to my wife and my sister actually, and what we were talking about and what really was my driving force was, I think that a lot of construction is traditionally built up with it's very antagonistic. You've got your client project manager, your construction manager like us, and then you've got your subcontractors, and all of their motivations are different, and they're all trying to get one up on each other. And I think that what we were trying to do was we were trying to change that in our way of doing things, and really it was about coming together for the greater good of all. We wanted to collaboratively work with our clients. We wanted to collectively work with our subcontractors and actually break down that traditional norm. So we kind of, the word guild for me, it means or everyone working together for the greater good.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it came from. But my sister and my wife actually kind of came up with a few options on, and the guild was really born out of their guidance,
I think it's a very, very strong brand name. It has a lot of sort of purpose and kind of tradition involved with it, which I think, and that sort of goes back to what you mentioned, your core values at the very start and how you measure success, which is great. So obviously, the business was then obviously developing and building up and going from smaller jobs to sort of bigger jobs. Do you remember that first time you got that sort of big contract and you felt, what, we're going places here?
I reckon it's the same feeling every time you get any contract. It's just great.
Yeah. We get excited about most of the jobs we do. They're whether they're 100 grand or $5 million or $10 million. It's there's some sort of satisfaction with being chosen and selected by your clients, and then actually making a successful delivery of the job. That's kind of the excitement in that. So once you lose that passion, it just becomes about the money, and that's really not the driver.
Yeah, I think that's the difference. A business that you have, you still have that passion. When you get to those really, really big companies, $100 million turnover businesses, as you said, it comes about how many zeros you've got on the end of the project and just what you're making on it. How do you find you keep that passion, there? Is it just within you, or?
Yeah, look, I think that there's just a natural drive. Tom and I are quite design focused and like to see things, and we need the tangibility of something in our day. You know, bankers, they look at the screen and see dollar figures and zeros on the end of it, and we need to see a wall go up or a door go in or some sort of tangible change in our day to sort of feel like we've achieved something. So there's that. There's also, you know, part of it is actually coming back to growing the business in itself in project size and complexity, and also this training of staff and really leaving that legacy of really great construction professionals. That's kind of the driver now. You know, it's about training the next gen whilst growing the business at the same time.
So how do you develop a high performing team? You know, how do you do that?
Well, I think you've got to have, you know, you can have all the policies and systems in place, but it's about encouraging the staff to learn and speak up and improve and deliver those policies. So you've got to, I mean, it's motivation, isn't it?
Look, I mean, it is the biggest conundrum in business, in construction as well. You've got a shortage in labour market, and therefore you've got people being poached constantly. So you're trying to keep the team together. You've got the chicken and egg scenario of you can't get bigger jobs until you get good staff. You can't get good jobs till you get good staff. You know, it's sort of you need one before the other. So, but I think it's about empowering your staff. Teaching them the systems, empowering them, trusting them, and guiding them, and being that kind of mentor for them. And that's probably the hardest thing, is trying to keep that team together to actually enable growth. And then in that growth, you get your bigger project for their career to grow as well. But if people are dropping out of the business constantly, then it's harder to get the next bigger job and the next bigger job to get them excited about their career progression.
Like, it's something that I've only really began to sort of think about, you know, since I've become a business owner, you know, and I've, even over the last, you know, 18 months to 2 years, I've lost people, you know, and you really go, well, actually being in the recruitment industry, when you're thinking of, you know, poaching staff from other businesses, but then the cap's on my head now, and I'm going, well, people are doing it to me. It's actually not that easy. It's very, very difficult. You know?
Fine, is it?
Oh, it's not good. You're like, oh, why are you leaving? I thought we had a great culture.
That's right.
Yeah. So, like, you know, how do you, what does a successful culture mean? Because for some businesses, you know, it's all about productivity. You know, you see Elon Musk, he's trying to send people to Mars, you know, like, what does a good culture, successful culture mean to Building Guild?
Well, for me, it's actually about working together, and one of our tagline is collective strength. So if we work together and stay together, and everyone chips in, that provides a good culture, because we're all just helping each other, and there's no political games of one-upmanship to try and get that more senior role or anything. So there's a bit of that, as you know, no one's higher or lower than anyone else. It's all just sort of collaborative working together. And I just can't, in my personal ethos, is I can't ask people to do something I wouldn't do myself. And so part of that is, like, I've got in and actually done things to prove and show to the guys that, you know, whilst I'm asking you to do this, and whilst it might be night works or whatever, I'm with you, and I'm here with you, and I wouldn't ask you to do it without doing it myself. So I think that breeds a bit of you know, a great culture in the respect of, I respect them, they respect me, and that sort of thing. So
AJ's always got when we interview and we're doing recruitment, he always says his dream is for that staff member to retire with Building Guild.
Yeah.
I think, you know, whilst that might be a stretch goal, I think it's a good incentive, and I mean, you're only going to achieve that if the culture's good.
Yeah. And what like, obviously you came in as a site foreman, Tom. Like, what was it like, sort of working with someone that you sort of knew outside of the business, and were working your way up within the company?
So to be fair, I didn't really know AJ prior to working with him. We forged our friendship through work. Nicole, for whatever reason, has kept me away from him. But no, look, so my starting with Building Guild 9 years ago, that was my sort of first foray into commercial construction, having a residential background. So it was a pretty intense transition. It is that they are quantumly different, but having AJ as a mentor was invaluable. Trust and support that he gave me. I mean, I remember starting all those years ago, you know, everything I did was sort of have red pen, and we just keep doing it until I got it right. And slowly, you know, the trust was there for, you know, me to go out, run my own projects, follow my own leads, and make my own mistakes, and learn and build from it. So
I remember when Tom, when we were first together, I, as I mentioned before, I don't actually have a trade background, and given that Tom's actually a qualified carpenter, I think we were doing a residential job years. Well, this is when we first started together, and I ended up being his labourer, his apprentice, you know. And he was saying, just get the hammer drill and drill in there, and cut that timber there, and one of the labourers who was actually working for us at the time went up to Tom and said, "Oh, mate, is there any chance I could get a job?" And he said, "Oh, don't talk to me, talk to that guy." So
that's wicked. That says a lot, though, about what you just mentioned about don't do anything that I wouldn't ask someone to do something that I'm not willing to do, you know. So going and helping out and assisting your team just for success, that says a lot. But you know, when you're looking for people to join Building Guild now, what are the three sort of things that you're always looking for?
Well, for us, I think our main three things are commitment, drive, and work ethic. You know, we can teach technical skills, but commitment, drive, and work ethic are ingrained and inherent in people's character. And that's what we're looking for. You know, if you've got someone who's got all the skills in the world but is not committed or doesn't have any drive, and they take off a 3 every arvo and don't really put too much into it, doesn't matter how good their technical skills are, you know. So yeah, that's our three sort of major things.
Yeah, I've got another two to add. We've always tried to employ personable, you know, nice people, kind people. That, you know, that's the kind of style of construction we want to offer, which you can see quite quickly, and then honesty as well. But it's a bit harder to gauge that until later on. But it's very important.
You don't give yourselves like an easy recruitment process, because all of those sort of non-negotiables, they're very, very hard to quantify, you know, sort of commitment, drive, work ethic. You know, it's kind of like, how do you know that until they join the business or you see them in action? That must be quite difficult.
It is difficult, and it is a bit like playing the card machines. You know, it's either red or black, you know, and you sort of have to take a bit of a leap of faith and a bit of a punt. But I guess it's in the interview process and talking to them, not necessarily questioning their technical ability, but talking about their life and about their personal experiences and things, and actually sort of trying to establish a bit of rapport with them to understand their character.
Yeah,
I think that's probably where we try to come from.
Yeah, to be honest, most companies that I've sort of worked with over the years, who I've felt, you know, are going to have successful futures, that's what they're looking for. It's the person, it's the character of the person, you know, because you can, as you said, you can get someone who's done all these amazing projects, you know, but the reality of it is that they could be a really horrible person to work with, and completely spoil the makeup of the team, you know. With regards to that, obviously, then, so one of the things I'm always interested in, you know, there's some businesses they employ managers, and there's others who employ leaders or future leaders. You know, what do you feel would be the difference for you in terms of leadership and management?
Well, like, I think that a manager is a person who can teach you technical skills and processes. I think a leader has an innate kind of X factor, if you like. And, you know, and they get you up and keep you up, and it's about kind of reading the room and actually kind of buoying the whole people's actual personal commitment at the time. But it's a feeling more than an actual action.
I get that. You know, it's we've got I think it's sometimes they're equally as important as the other, and sometimes, you know, like if you had a team of 20 leaders, you know, it'd be quite challenging. You know, like sometimes you need someone to put in those processes and procedures and putting the systems in place. Is that what you feel the same, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sort of overarching directive comes from the leader. You know, the direction in which the business needs to go, and it's up to the managers to, you know, actually get that down through the staff and deliver it.
Yeah. One thing that people are always asking me is to ask other leaders that this question is, you know, if you've got people in your team who are maybe sort of coasting by or struggling, like how do you go about getting more out of people?
You know, encouragement's a really big thing for us, and I think it's really trying to identify everyone's strengths. Everyone's got different strengths.
Yeah,
and I think it's about identifying them and cross-pollinating that across the staff. So we're always building, always getting better, and then, you know, in doing that, you kind of identifying the areas that maybe need a bit of work and trying to tailor your training and mentorship those areas to make them more confident in their job.
Yeah, so it's nearly about caring about them, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think there's some people are very good at just doing and being good doers, and they don't necessarily read an emotional state or a room state, you know. And I think that great leader can walk into a room and actually understand and feel the room and feel that emotional state and understand when someone's not up and buoyed up, and then that's the time to go and talk to them and have a chat and see what's wrong. And there could be they're having a personal problem in their personal life, or it could be that they're disgruntled with something that's going on a project or a client or whatever it might be. And it's about trying to have an open line of communication so that they can air those and you can address them and try and pull them back up to their high performance level before they actually leave.
Yeah,
because it hasn't been addressed. So I think that's the difference as well. You've got a manager who will just be a doer and doing that, and then you've got the leader who's trying to read that emotional state without actually talking to people.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. Like leadership it's such a special quality in a person, you know, and it's really, really hard to find, especially in nowadays, you know. But sort of what I'm also quite keen on talking about is how do you obviously keep your passion, run a business, run multiple projects, have 20 staff or more. What is your routine like? What is a normal typical day look like for you?
I reckon if we wanted a typical day in our lives, we wouldn't be working in construction.
Jeez.
I honestly don't think there is ever a typical day. I think there's certain tools we have in place that are typical each day to help us get through the days and realize what's got to get done. But the priorities are constantly shifting. I think it essentially boils down to time management.
In terms of a typical day, you can plan as much as you like in construction, but construction just throws curveballs at you every day.
Yeah.
And then you're just dealing with things reactively, even though you've planned your day out. So it sort of throws your plan out the window every day to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about, like Tom says, he's actually trying to manage that. But if you're talking about an actual functional, what you do on an everyday basis, we're probably getting up somewhere between 3 and 5 a.m. 3 a.m. if we've got a lot of stuff to do, and 5 a.m. is a sort of typical day to get ahead of the game. And that's, do some work before you're seeing your kids and having breakfast and doing school runs. And then Tommy and I are on the phone generally, early in the morning, late at night. We've pretty much got a two-way intercom system between our houses, so to speak. And then it's, to home with the kids and helping out the boss at home.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of do one foot in front of the other, dealing with whatever it throws at you on a daily basis. So, yeah.
I think anybody who wanted to get into construction, once they heard 3 a.m., they've probably just switched this podcast off now, So that's right. That's us done. You're not getting any good superstars coming into the business now, Alex.
I think that might be just the business owner.
I didn't want to say that I would do that.
Yeah. Tom's sitting there going, "Oh, really? Are we supposed to get up that early?"
Yeah. Don't call me at 3.
Yeah.
Right, I think, but there's also, in construction, you've got contracts, you've got deadlines all the time. But if there is no deadline there, we, enjoy that.
Mm.
And we don't, you don't have to get up at 3 or 5 but just for the sake of it.
The other thing as well on a daily basis for the average guy in construction is, and what I used to love when I was working for someone else was I wasn't bound to my desk. I could go in the morning and go to my sites and check that out. I could come back to the office and do some paperwork and do some computer work, and then maybe go out to a site in the afternoon. So I wasn't bound to, the clock on 9 to 5 in that one location.
Yeah.
And like Tom says, when the pressures aren't on, you're coming in at 9 and you're leaving at 3 because there's no major deadline.
Yeah.
And I think that in commercial fit out construction, the time pressures are so tight that you just do have to work those hours. And that's the big difference between commercial fit out and average construction, be it residential or high rise construction or commercial environment.
Yeah, I used to recruit a lot in the London market, and so most of my clients were in that fit out side of things. So they were doing fit outs in like Selfridges and Harrods and big clients like that. But you used to get to like September, October, and everyone was trying to get things finished so they could open up for Christmas. So you'd have clients ringing you all times a day saying, "We need site foremen to work, night shift and stuff like that." But I think that's what you say is it's such an exciting industry, like that's genuinely why I love it. I could go and recruit in technology or something like that, but I always find it's so boring. Like you're dealing with these people who are from the boilermaker through to the head of one of the biggest sort of banks or in the city. So I think it's such a cool industry. So there's no days the same. Do you have anything that you do to sort of switch off and say, you know what, I'm done with work now?
Well, my wife and I try and make our house, it's pretty relaxed, and from the moment we get home, it's just hard chill, and we just support each other. Then it's easy to sort of unwind and relax and come and chat the next day. Yeah.
And with regards to your team, do you encourage them to to do things to switch off, or obviously?
I think that COVID's taught us a lot in that respect. We've sort of realised that when we've got guys that we know and trust and we know their output, and we can not have to micromanage them so much, they've got a lot more flexibility these days. We encourage them to work from home a day or two a week or whatever. Everyone's got all the accesses to servers and stuff remotely these days. So there's a lot more of that work-life balance in that respect. Not having to drive to and from work an hour each way or half an hour each way is a big benefit. And then of course we do lots of part of our culture is to actually do a lot of team building stuff. We built a climbing gym a year or so ago, and we took everyone out there for a test run.
Nice. I would enjoy watching you do that.
Yeah, it was more enjoyable watching some than others, right?
Yeah. No, that's cool. So, how do you feel like COVID has changed construction?
The nature of the work has changed. There's obviously been a steep decline in office fit outs, but I mean, I sort of, maybe I'm a bit optimistic, but I think it'll sort of transition slightly back to what it was. I mean, for us to deliver jobs in the city has, it's been quite a delight, in the COVID world when there's no one in the city. We can make walks all day long. It's easy to park. So, from the actual, what we deliver has been, a bit more enjoyable, I guess.
From an actual project perspective, whilst there's been a decline in projects available, I think that everyone's looking to the next pandemic, so to speak, and they're sort of looking at how to structure their business and structure the design of their office space to actually, mitigate any future pandemics. So there may be a big flush of work that will come through this with people re-churning spaces that they're currently in to have a bit more social distancing, to have some more automated doors so you've got less touch points and things like that. So I think there's a bit of work that potentially could come out of it, but I don't think it's rolling out yet.
Yeah, I feel like because Australia has dealt with COVID so well, I've got so many friends, and I'm sure Tom has as well, like who've been in lockdown in the UK and Ireland for nearly a year, essentially, and I feel like if we experienced something similar, everyone would just be rushing back into the office. I don't know. I feel like everyone's just starved for some general conversation and just lightheartedness. Like seeing your pals in work, it makes such a difference than just sitting at home.
Yeah, I think it's important for mental health for people to actually have that social interaction.
Yeah,
and I think if you're maybe a little bit introverted or something, it's easy to make that decision to just go, I want to just stay at home because I don't have to interact. But I think the long-term effect on that individuals is probably not as good as if they're in the office.
Yeah, I think so. Do you think that, obviously you mentioned about more flexible working arrangements and stuff like that, do you think that you can get a really good work-life balance in construction?
If you don't own a construction company, probably.
Look, I do. I mean, I work hard and it's stressful, but I think the challenges that I face drive me. I think you have to be a certain personality to enjoy it and thrive in it. And I think the staff that we employ all do. I think it takes a certain type of person, but I think you can definitely get that balance.
Yeah.
I think also that, the hardest thing in life is finding something that you love doing. And when you get up and you go to work and you're actually not dreading it because you actually really love it, regardless of what it throws at you, you get up every morning inspired and you kind of want to go to work. That's a lot of 95% of people in the world probably don't find that in their life.
Yeah.
So it's about, I mean, I've found it and I love it. So, I'm inspired every day to come in and go to work and keep doing the things we do. So for me, I don't need the work-life balance in that respect, because it's actually providing everything I enjoy in life,
Yeah. I think like when you, as you say, when you love it, it just becomes part of your life.
Yeah, that's what
like there's no real time when you go, oh, I'm not really working here. Like what does work mean at the end of the day? If you're researching, or doing business development with architects, or you're probably doing that just because you love it and it's life.
Yeah,
now,
like Tom said, when he goes home, he gets back on the tools and does his own house as well. So.
Yeah, I know.
That's his downtime.
Yeah, I sit and watch these like YouTube documentaries of guys like you, Tom, and transforming their houses and stuff like that. Like it's awesome.
We got a pretty style house which we're about to do a major renovation on, but for the first few months of living there, I was as soon as I got back from work all weekend, all hours of the night working on just to make it livable. And I said to my wife recently, "Oh God, I miss those days. That was just the happiest I've ever been." And she said, "Worst time of my life."
Yeah. I was looking at buying a house and there was a lot of renovations to be made, and me and my wife started talking about them, and then we started having arguments, and I was like, nah, it's probably not worth it, I'll probably get something. Yeah. There's loads of talk about burnout and mental health within construction. Like, how do you feel? Obviously you mentioned when you love it, it's important, because then it feels like you're not sort of grinding yourself into the stone. Is there anything that you feel like you can do or advise people to do to get that balance a little bit more?
AJ is really he's very in tune with emotion generally, and certainly the staff, and I think he does drill home that there's an open door policy to his office and mine as well. And we we realize it takes a lot of strength to actually talk up if you are feeling blue about something, which is obviously a problem not just in construction but everywhere. But on the occasion that we have identified someone struggling or they've spoken to us, we absolutely support them and give them time off or a bit less duties, whatever they want, whatever they feel they need. Also, there's an organisation called Mates in Construction, which AJ's arranged for them to come and talk to us a couple of times. So it's very important to AJ in particular.
Quite difficult, I used to do a lot of contract work when I worked in New Zealand. So I was putting contractors out, and there was a guy that I placed 4 times. He became a really good friend of mine. He passed away, but committed suicide a few years ago. And it is one of those things that just that leadership, just asking that question and seeing how someone is and putting their arm around them, it can change someone's day and thoughts on things, and to realize that the pressure isn't always there and they can speak up. I think it's super important.
Well, it's a massive problem in construction and in fit out in particular, with the speed and detail required. And the timelines are so short that it can be really stressful and really sleep deprived as well. You sometimes the guys are getting up at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. to get to site at 4 to do some work before tenants get into the building at 8:30 or 9.
Yeah.
And then they're leaving site at 3:30 or 4 in the afternoon. So it's a fairly long day, and that could go on for a few weeks. So it's kind of like being seasick and not being able to get off the boat.
Yeah.
But I think it's about managing this from a personal and work perspective. It's hard to see for me to see my team that way. You can see when their shoulders are down, their head's down, they're not looking at the people in the eye. You can actually just see it happening. And it's about trying to pull them aside, give them a bit of flexibility in their work, in their work hours, provide some support to them. When we're out of the frying pan, so to speak, is to give them some actual decent time off.
Yeah.
To rejuvenate. We had a job recently, which was about a 9 to 10 week job for $3.5-4 million job. Very intense program, and at the end of the job, we gave the project manager a week off, paid leave, outside of his normal holiday cycle, because we could see he'd been stressed and he'd done a great job. So it's about trying to be that flexible workplace to read the situation and then provide some solutions.
Yeah, and it's so important. Anyone out there who's project management, contracts administration, whatever it might be, site foreman, and listening to it, take your holidays. Loads of people don't take their holidays, and they're there for a reason. And it's something that's always resonated with me. And take some time off when you can. You know, it's important. Well, just a few quick fire questions to finish off, guys. So if you were to have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be? We'll start with you, Tom.
Well, if Mick Jagger was busy, I'd probably pick. No. I was talking to my wife about it, and there's it kind of tying into construction. There's an old architect in England from like the 1700s. And I used to walk up and down the South Bank, and he designed and engineered St Paul's Cathedral, as well as a lot of other churches as well. And there's a really cool story, which I just think is, I don't know, it's just, I like engineering and maths and physics and all that stuff. And he basically, at the time, it was the first time a dome ceiling had been made or proposed, designed. And the King of England at the time said, that's ridiculous. There's no way that's going to hold itself up. I don't want to be the laughing stock of Europe. You're not doing it. And it was a bit of negotiation back and forth. And the King said, okay, I'll let you do it, but you've got to put a big steel girder around the base of it to hold it up. So Christopher Wren said, all right, I'll do that, no worries. And still to this day, there's a steel girder, but it's 2 inches off the bottom of the dome.
Very good.
I like that story because I just think that, you know, the King back in those days, like, you've got to be pretty bold and confident in your engineering and your skill set.
Yeah, that's wicked. No, that's cool. What about you, Alex?
Oh, I think that probably Nelson Mandela for me.
Yeah.
I mean, his life was pretty incredible, and going from jail to be president, and his impact on the world. I've been a big fan of his for years. And in fact, my first daughter was born the day he died, so I have a feeling that hopefully there's some sort of transition of soul there.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think there's been one or two people who have said Nelson Mandela, and that's how much an impact he's made on everybody. But if there was one thing that you could change about construction, what would it be? I know that people love talking about this one. What would it be? Tom or Alex? Shoot first.
I mean, I think it is changing. One thing that we've noticed and really support and probably go over and above is, the environmental aspect, which is changing in our culture and society. It's coming to the forefront, which it should be. And I think that is constantly evolving and getting the buy-in from our, clients that are willing to maybe spend a bit more to do the right thing. We monitor, when we're doing a strip out job, we monitor all the waste that leaves site and where it goes to sort of get a figure of percentage of how much is diverted from landfill, which is, I think that's what I can see the industry is changing for the better. And still a long way to go. It's still, there's still a few economical sort of issues that make it, roadblocks in a sense, that make it difficult to do the right thing.
Yeah.
It is changing.
No, I 100% agree. That's a great answer. What about you, Alex?
Well, I think it's probably more. Apart from what Tom's saying about the environmental stuff, I think it's probably more on a personal level, which is the kind of care factor. Mm-hmm. Respecting what people do and what has been lost a bit. They just come in for the dollar, and I can get a job as a tiler pretty easily, but I don't really care. I don't really care about the outcome. I'm putting tiles on the walls, and that'll be it. And I think that whole quality and the craftsmanship is kind of been void in the industry for many years, or it's just hard to find. I think people have been corrupted by the cash because of the shortage of workforce. They can see a big short-term cash cow, but at the end of the day, for us as our building guild and the quality we're trying to achieve, and that the point of difference is the quality. That's something that I'd like to have changed. Is people actually really care about what they do, and they're more on that kind of stonemason guild, and that craftsmanship, the artisan sort of side of things again.
I can see that coming through in a lot of your answers. Actually, I really like that. So, what one book or film that's impacted you? It can be anything from Wedding Crashers to the Bible. I don't mind.
I think there's every film you watch or book you read, it affects you in some way. But in more recent sort of months, I watched a film. Is based on a true story about DuPont, the big pharmaceutical company. Yeah,
I've watched that one as well. Actually, it's pretty good.
Sort of dovetails into the environmental thing we're dealing with as an industry as a whole. But DuPont back in the 70s or 80s invented Teflon, which is on everything we use. And the EPA at the time, because it was a new chemical, they didn't have any kind of data on this product. So they just said to DuPont, "Oh, you just document what it's like, how hazardous it is." DuPont just said, "No, it's fine. Put it in the rivers," and poisoned thousands of people, killed thousands of animals, ruined acres of land, and that just goes to show that such a massive company just has zero responsibility for the environment. Yeah, and it's absolutely shocking watching that.
I know. All comes down to commercial and money again. Yeah. Doesn't it? Have you got any particular book or film that stands out for you, Alex?
No, I think like Tom's saying, most books and films you read, they change you in some way or have some sort of inflection that you have. But one thing I do actually really enjoy is watching is mega structures.
Yeah.
Which is, when they pick up a whole building that's built 200 years ago and they move it 2 kilometres down the road and relocate it somewhere, it's like the engineering involved in that's pretty incredible. So I quite enjoy watching that.
I'm sure your wife loves you. Construction in the brain.
Well, yeah. I think the worst point was when I had a problem with one of the sewers we'd put in, and I got a camera put down there, and the only VHS I had was at home. And so I took it home, and Justine, my wife, was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. What were you doing? So the final question: What is the thing that you're most looking forward to in construction?
Apart from a holiday.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I think recently, our business development managers brought in a lot more opportunities that are kind of getting away from fit out and actually a bit more structural oriented. So larger structural construction, I think, is we're starting to
I think that in the background to that is actually the exciting thing is that our direction of the business. And I think what we've had this interior fit out base, capital works base, then remedial. Then we started doing the ACP cladding. And I think what we've got now is a good business units to pull them all together to start doing bigger construction things. We just recently tendered a job where we were replacing the whole facade, squaring up the corner of a building, put a new waterproof membrane on the rooftop of a 12-story building. That type of thing is exciting, and it's a little more complex than what we're used to. And the fit out market, whilst there's not a lot of stock around because a lot of buildings were knocked down for the light rail and a lot of stocks coming online in 2023. So there's not a lot of movement there. You've got COVID where people aren't actually going into offices so much. So there's no immediate need for offices. So the transition to that type of construction is challenging and you're sort of getting away from a sort of pretty tight market. So we're sort of heading down that path and it's kind of exciting for us to bring all those units together and get the whole thing humming.
Yeah, I think new experiences are always fun, and you're learning something new, and you get that capability, and it builds up pretty quickly, and all of a sudden you've got a whole new division within the business or dynamic as well. But thank you so much, Tom and Alex, and for doing this today. I think you certainly shed some light on your stories and the success and the vision of Building Guild. So thank you so much for being part of the podcast.
No worries, Mick. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for listening to Measured with me, Mick Donaghy. Our goal with this podcast is to create a community of construction professionals from a variety of backgrounds and experiences to develop, learn, and grow together. As a business, our aim with Franklin Smith is to become the most respected pre-construction and quantity surveying recruitment agency in Australia within the next 5 years. Thereafter, our goal is to build a 100-year company that outlives us as owners, but lives on in the careers and legacy projects we recruit for. Listening to this podcast is being a small part of that journey, and we're forever thankful for your time. If you'd like to connect further with our ever-growing community, check out the Measured Facebook and LinkedIn pages. Thanks for listening to Measured. Catch you next time. Before you go today, guys, I'm just going to ask you to do one thing. Can you please go to Apple right now or Spotify right now and just give us those 5 stars? Hit that 5-star button. It makes such a difference you wouldn't believe. The whole idea of this show is to inspire, educate, and motivate our listeners. And we only do that if we're getting the best guests. The best guests want to see data. They want to see information. They want to see how many listeners that we get. And so all of this stuff is really, really important. So if you can just literally go and do that today, if you enjoy the show, just go and hit that 5-star button. It makes such a difference. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We're going to continue to push this out there every Monday. So if you can, hit that 5-star button. And if you can't, even share it with a friend. Go on to WhatsApp, flick it on to your crew. Guys, thank you so much for listening. On to next week.